Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So with this mantra, all the important spiritual discussions are being traditionally started. Chanting this mantra, which means I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. And Jaya Radha Madhava, I just wanted to read the translation. The song that we were singing before chanting Hare Krishna, it's called Jaya Radha Madhava. It's a bhajan, written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great saintly person. Even for those of us who know the meaning, it's good to be reminded time to time. So it means Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Braj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Yashoda, the delighter of the inhabitants of Braja, and he wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. This is the meaning of it. Like a glimpse, giving a glimpse of spiritual world, place where we want to be. This is the first Sunday of this year. I feel very honored being given an opportunity to speak on the first Sunday of 2019. Actually, saying Happy New Year feels kind of awkward by now, because the novelty has worn off. It's not new anymore. But anyway, Happy New Year. So I chose a verse and a topic related to this verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. And there's a group of verses from 8 to 12. They're all combined together. So there's a long list of you will hear, about to hear. So it's a long Sanskrit, skip that, and just go straight for translation of Srila Prabhupada. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So this is a bold statement by Lord Krishna himself. So these items consist of I declare to be knowledge, and whatever else there is ignorance. So, the long list of different things. And interesting that it all starts, the list starts with one word. In Sanskrit it's called amanitvam, or humility. And so, having given very little notice of that I have to speak today. Last time I spoke, more than 6 months ago, so maybe speak about twice a year or so. But anyway, so I thought, in case you have been given very short notice and you don't have really time to prepare as well as you like to prepare, the best thing, I thought, is to speak something that that's interesting for you, something that you feel you have emotional connection with, and something that's fascinating for yourself. So I chose the topic. Otherwise, if you prepare very well, it may become from mental platform. But if you're more spontaneous, sometimes it's better. I don't know if you agree. Right. So the topic which I chose, it is in the first word of this list, is humility. The beginning of all knowledge. So why I find this topic so interesting? Because, well, in modern day, we know it's not being emphasized very, very much. It's not being sought after or appreciated, the quality of humility. Because, well, in modern day, present society, culture is very much achievement-driven. Achievement-driven culture. And it's called me society, the selfie society, and so on and so forth. Rather the opposite. It strives for say, self-centeredness, self-admiration, self-glorification. It means pursuing, who are considered great personalities nowadays in society. Greatness means that individuals are motivated by self-interest, self-indulgence, and a false sense of self-sufficiency. And they go after selfish ambitions for the purpose of self-glorification. So be self-sufficient, cultivate self-confidence for the purpose of self-glorification. It's just the opposite of what is humility. So, although humility is not so much appreciated or spoken about, and the proud people are glorified, despite all this, humility is still appreciated. It is valued. And there's a saying that humility is a virtue that all preach, none practice, and yet everyone is content to hear about. It's a nice quote. And it is not only Vaishnava tradition that appreciates or glorifies this quality of humility. Any bona fide religious tradition, you find it's held in very high esteem. Christianity, definitely. There are many stories, many quotes from Bible. Even, if I remember, there were 2 students of Lord Jesus Christ who were very ambitious, and they wanted to become the leaders of everyone else, wanted to be above everyone else. And Jesus knew their intentions. And then he told them, so you want to become great? So this is what you have to you have become servant of everyone else. So this is real greatness. And it is said, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. This is a quote from Bible. So this quality of humility is appreciated in Christianity, in Islam tradition, every genuine religion. They glorify this quality. But in one sense, it turns upside down our mundane, worldly idea of what is greatness. So what is humility? Well, the dictionary definition is one definition is that it is a quality of having a modest or low view of one's importance. Another definition: humility is constant forgetfulness of one's achievements, for example. And in this very verse, Srila Prabhupada elaborates on all these qualities that are listed. And he says that humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, one who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. And then he ends by saying, one should not be hankering after this material deception. He calls it material deception. Why? He explains here, because it is connected with this material body, which is not our real self. It is deception because it is temporary. Material body is like prisoner's uniform. And why do we get it or receive material body? Ultimately because our desire to compete with God, to compete with Krishna, take his position. So we've given this body as a sign of rebellious soul. It is a prisoner's uniform. It's nothing to be proud of, really. Your body is constantly being harassed by all kind of sickness, you're right, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain. These dualities, they constantly disturb us. And that's because these disturbances are like reminders. This is not your healthy condition. And when we even, let's say we become really good at something, and we think we have achieved something great, then well, it's called pride, or false pride, that thinking yourself the doer of the activities. Krishna says the activities which are actually in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. And so that all the virtues which are listed here, why it all starts with humility? Because it is said, if you plan to build a tall house of virtues, you must first lay the deep foundation of humility. Just like foundation. You cannot have knowledge without this quality. Some people consider humility a weakness. There may be a misunderstanding that it is a weakness. But if if you think meek is a week, try being meek for a week. It is a challenge. Why? Because we're not used to being humble. There's also a Chinese proverb: "Be like the bamboo. The higher you grow, the deeper you bow." And ultimately, in Shastras, it is said that humility is a quality of transcendentally situated person who is on spiritual platform. And what are the benefits of humility? Why should we strive for that quality? First of all, try to be meek for a week, and you see it's not easy. So why should we even bother? Because it's so difficult. Well, it is a natural condition of the soul in its pure state to be humble. When we hear this popular sayings that just be yourself, just do what you like do what you feel doing, because by doing that you are yourself. But people have no understanding what means being yourself. What is the self? What are the qualities of self? And what most important quality is the self, the soul in its natural condition is humble. And so why is humility so important, especially in spiritual path? It attracts Krishna's attention and mercy. Krishna is drawn like magnet to humility. And then we get God's attention. It is just, it is called, humility is called the seed. Humility is a seed of divinity. It's not that because I'm sitting here talking about humility that I'm claiming to possess that exalted quality. But it's just so fascinating that especially when studying about the lives of great Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, how they express that quality of humility. They are most exalted persons, and yet at the same time they think themselves lower than anyone else. It's really contradictory. That's why one reason it's so very fascinating, because how to reconcile these two opposites. They're obviously very exalted persons, and everyone respects them because they possess all the noble, exalted qualities which are so much admired and everyone would like to have. So these saintly persons, they are like personification of these qualities. And at the same time, they're not bragging about it. They're just the opposite. They feel themselves that they're the lowest of all. So this contradiction is very, very unique and interesting. So this is one reason I really always wondering about this. How it's possible? How? So I thought it's a good idea to just put it on a table and discuss it. So the popular belief is that God helps those who help themselves. Popular saying, but one sense it is not true. That God helps those who humble themselves. To think that I can help myself, I'm the doer. That's the opposite. of humility. And the opposite of humility, yes, is pride. And according to scriptures, pride seems to be just like the most serious sin. Because pride means that you want to take the position of God. And as a result, we see that there's a saying, God sends no one away empty except those who are full of themselves. So Srila Prabhupada says in the same purport, if anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity is being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks, I am God, because of ignorance. Yes, like Katyayani mentioned, we have Prabhupada says, we're kicked by the stringent laws of material nature. Kicked means it's very painful. Adhyatmika, adibhautika, aditaivika. These are Sanskrit words for miseries caused by living entities, our own body and mind, and natural circumstances. So one should be naturally humble, right? We can assume, that but being kicked by material nature, one should be naturally humble. Well, not necessarily. There's a saying, even a beggar is proud of his penny, right? But beggar has nothing. Maybe he gets some penny, and still there's a pride involved. So in one sense, real issue is not that do we have pride or not, but how does pride manifest in our lives? Sometimes it's so hidden. I have a nice quote here. To test a modest man, humble man's modesty, do not investigate if he ignores applause, find out if he abides criticism. The pride can be, the point is the pride can be so hidden, we can't find it, can't recognize it. Yes, somebody can pretend to not accept glorification, but if you criticize them harshly, then the pride comes out. It's exposed. So, and also Srila Prabhupada calls it like a false pride of Mayavadis. Mayavadis have false pride in the sense that they externally behave very humbly, but in their heart they maintain the desire to become God. So this is one type of false humility. There are other ways pride can disguise itself. Like how, let's say, okay, here I supposed to be humble. So there is real humility and false humility. False humility, for example, could be, humility could be misapplied or misunderstood. Let's say, okay, I have to be humble. When, let's say somebody insults me or criticizes me, I have to be humble. And when somebody also insults, let's say, other devotee next to you, okay, we have to be humble. No, this is according to scriptures, misuse of or false humility, because you're supposed to be humble towards yourself and act like a fire if God or devotee is being, say, offended. So really tough thing about humility is you can't brag about it. And there's a nice saying that humility is so shy. If you talk about it, as soon as you talk about it, it will leave. I like this quote. Sometimes these quotes can really encapsulate. How do you say encapsulate? Yeah. Yeah. Talking about false humility. Another popular saying is that humility is not thinking less about yourself. Thinking about yourself less. No, thinking less of yourself, but rather thinking. Humility is not thinking less of yourself; it is thinking of yourself less. Another form of false humility is, let's say, low self-esteem. There's a healthy self-esteem, but there's low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is another way, how pride is disguised. Low self-esteem. And let's say, humility is not denying your strengths, but accepting your weaknesses. Basically, low self-esteem, false humility can mean that, oh, I'm so humble, I'm so useless, I cannot do anything. I'm not able to do anything, I'm humble. But another definition of humility I heard is doing something boldly for Krishna. Yeah, doing something boldly for Krishna. This is an act of humility. And one should be humble enough to know that I'm not better than anybody, but wise enough to know that I'm different from everyone else. So we hear how beneficial is humility, and why we should try to cultivate it. But at the same time, as soon as you make attempt to be humble, you figure out quite soon that, well, it's not that easy. One reason it's so difficult is we have practiced trying to be God, having our little God project going on. It means basically we try to be a center of attention somehow or other, and therefore because we have practiced it for a long time, we have so conditioned, and this is one reason it is hard to be humble. and give up pride. Actually, to be honest, it's not just hard. It is impossible. The point that the scriptures make, we have become prisoners of pride, and it's not that you just go to surgeon and he does your heart surgery, cuts out the pride, and you're done. It's not up to us really. You need mercy in order to get rid of pride. You need Krishna's, God's grace, God's mercy. So without that mercy, that help, our situation is pretty hopeless. One sense, yeah, as I said, those who help themselves, God helps those who help themselves. In this context, it is true. And how you get that mercy of God in order to conquer this enemy of pride. The way to awaken mercy is still by your effort, your endeavor, by which you let God know, I really want this. Humility is such a exalted quality. It is a door that opens your entrance back to Godhead. So this is something really desirable, something we should really, really want and value highly. And how do we, practical steps, how do we practice humility in achievement-driven culture? There are some one point I would like to suggest, that like morning time usually is the time when we wake up. Morning often sets the tone for the rest of the day. So it's important. What are your thoughts at the moment of waking up? So suggest here to begin your day by acknowledging your dependence on God. Krishna, I'm totally dependent on you in everything I do. Well, it's not an imagination. It's just imagining I'm dependent on God. Actually, it's a fact. It's 100% fact. True, we are totally dependent. Because, you can't even move your hand, you can't move your finger, your eyelid, nothing, unless God sanctions. So, first step, feel yourself dependent. And then second step, in the morning, when you wake up, remember to be grateful. Because pride or arrogance means we are ungrateful, and if we are ungrateful, then in other words, arrogant, then why should Krishna sympathize or help us? Because Prabhupada said that why should God favor the competition if you want to take his position? So there's a list of things, for example, how to practice humility, and these are from Mother Teresa. She exhibited those qualities. Just list some of them. To speak as little as possible of oneself, to mind one's own business, not to want to manage other people's affairs, to avoid curiosity, to accept contradictions and corrections cheerfully. If somebody, corrects you, accept it cheerfully, not become angry. To pass over the mistakes of others. These are all it's totally in line with Bhagavad Gita. Because if you read from the 16th chapter, divine and demoniac natures, Krishna lists their very same things. Chapter 16, text 4. Yeah, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, so aversion for fault-finding. Natural tendency is to find faults in others and not in oneself. It's so easy to be harsh with others and very soft with oneself. So, but Mother Teresa recommends it. Pass over the mistakes of others. To accept insults and injuries. In other words, be very tolerant. Whatever happens, be tolerant. To accept being slighted, forgotten, and disliked. To accept being disliked. When we feel hurt when somebody who doesn't like us or behaves offensively because of our pride. We feel hurt because of false ego. But accept it. Be kind and gentle even under provocation. And to choose always the hardest. Interesting. To choose always the hardest. Then that's just the opposite. Saying goes easy. The easiest path is the road most often traveled. Yeah. Well, I would like to slowly wind up and conclude. There's so much more to say about this topic. It's like unlimited topic. But ultimately, in order to become humble, there's a natural system in place. If you start practicing spiritual life seriously, and then one way to become humble is to accept spiritual master. Spiritual master's role is to make sure that the disciple is being freed gradually from the false pride, which is the greatest obstacle. False pride, the pride is the main reason we cannot have the sweet connection with Krishna, the personal connection. So the spiritual master's mission is to demolish that pride. Because duty of disciple is to accept spiritual master and humbly offer the service. And what is the, let's say, practical application of humility? It is service. Service is a practical manifestation of humility. Yeah, we can say we are humble, but how does it manifest in life practically? You serve. So, humble yourself, or life will do it for you. The best way to test your own humility is, for example, to distribute books, Srila Prabhupada books, this very same books. And just take a couple books and then go out on the street and try to distribute these books to people who you never met before, who you don't know and they don't know you, and try to stop them, try to convince them And then I'll tell you, you cannot do this, at least for long, unless you become humble. So this activity itself helps you to cultivate humility. The book distribution, yeah. But even if we are busy with our daily jobs or schools, whatever our life situation it may be, still doesn't mean that we cannot cultivate humility in practice. Because Krishna every day arranges so many incidents, situations in our lives. And these situations are like sticky notes. Krishna puts like sticky notes up there for you, and to practice humility, to recognize, that's where my pride is raising its ugly head. That's where I should be careful. That's the area I should be working on. So, if we just want to become attentive about the sticky notes Krishna is putting up for us in order to help us, then we can speed up our progress toward real humility. And another reason, why we should want to be humble is that without humility we cannot really perfect our most important process, which is chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. It applies both to japa and to kirtan. It is because the goal of life is to chant constantly. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Trinada Pisonichana, Karoriga Sahishnuna, Amani Namanajan, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Kirtaniya Sadahari means to chant non-stop, constantly. This is the goal. But you cannot do it unless you feel yourself lower than a straw on a street and more tolerant than a tree. You cannot chant constantly unless you have this quality of humility. So, this is another reason we should prioritize this humility. Any questions, comments, realizations? Okay, no problem. Oh, you have, no problem.
Just one point. Sometimes it's quite disguised who the humble person is and who the humble person isn't. There's one example. It's not exactly on humility, but it gives an idea of when Ambarish Maharaj was a great king, one of the biggest kings ever on this planet, and if you looked at a king and you think that he's a big enjoyer, he's in charge of so many different things, he has so much wealth, so much everything, you could say. And when he was visited by a famous renunciant, who the renunciant, you think, oh, this person is the most humble person ever, and
Durvasa Muni.
yeah. No, the renunciant, he was the king was just after performing a huge sacrifice, I think, which you mentioned, and at the end of it, fasting, he was just about to break fast, and this Muni came, Durvasa Muni came and so it was the obligation of the king then to feed the Brahmin. So the Brahmin wanted to go down first of all to the water to have a shower, to have a bath before coming back to eat. But because the king had performed this this particular fast, the time was coming for him to break the fast, and he was so stringent in his fast that he was worried now, because if he ate before the renunciant, it's considered very wrong thing to do. And so what he did was he consulted with the Brahmins and asked them, so what should I do? And then they agreed that if he takes some water, that is the same as breaking fast and not breaking fast. So the renunciant was a mystic, and so he could understand that this person had taken before him, and so he came back up, and he became very angry at Maharaj, at Ambarish Maharaj for having eaten before him, and he got this. He made this vow to curse and got some demonic energy to hurl at the king. But Krishna was so pleased with the king, because the king was in such a humble position, and he protected Durvasa from that, or he protected Ambarish Maharaj from the curse. And in fact, what happened is that Krishna's own protecting energy, which is the Sudarshan Chakra, actually went after the Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa was very powerful mystic. He was able to go to different planetary systems, but still he couldn't escape the Sudarshan, which is the protecting energy of the Supreme, and it was burning and burning and burning. And for a whole year, he went everywhere to try to avoid it. But then, and he even went to Lord Vishnu himself, and Lord Vishnu then, he wouldn't. He says, "Well, I cannot I cannot forgive you. But if you go and ask my devotee, he will give you the forgiveness." And so after a whole year, he went back to Ambarish and paid his humble obeisances at his lotus feet. But the amazing thing was that Ambarish, he didn't feel, that he was great because of that. He was feeling distressed that Durvasa hadn't eaten. That was his only worry. And so Krishna, sometimes I was just thinking from that perspective, how a person who you might think is not being humble, but I think it was just something that you mentioned earlier about sometimes humble means being bold for Krishna, to do something good, something powerful as a service to Krishna. That is, it comes in a different disguise, And I really liked that point that you were making about that.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. You're right that you cannot always detect who is actually humble by external behavior, because somebody can just pretend externally, exhibit very humble behavior. I'm so low, I'm so useless, I'm so. But internally, actually, enjoy that others glorify me as very happy, very humble. Yeah, it's possible for me to sit here on this high seat here, talk about humility and be very proud at the same time. It's possible. Yeah, it's as you mentioned, pride is so cleverly disguised every moment.
It's
yes.
like sometimes some people use different veils of what they wear, like not by clothes but by, like what you're saying, disguise. It's almost like a veil we can't see, I suppose. Or it takes a clever eye to see behind that veil. What I know is,
yeah, you're right.
knowledgeable.
It's not really our position to judge who is humble, who is not. We should worry about our own humility.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love the quote when you point a finger at someone, three is pointing back at you.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's right.
That's right, sure.
It's all relevant. And really humble person is not advertising himself as humble. And you can't really detect who is actually humble by external behavior, because devotee, Vaishnava, exalted Vaishnava is naturally hiding his exalted qualities. And you don't know the heart of a person unless they reveal it to you. So in one sense, the way we can learn about the heart of a Vaishnava is by studying the bhajans of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for example. Gopinath Amani Vedana Suno. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying. He pours his heart out on his songs, on his poems. He feels himself, low, wretched person. He's like highly elevated Paramahamsa, Mahabhagavata devotee, but they naturally feel themselves like ordinary persons, very, very fallen. And so you can get some glimpse of real humility by studying the songs of Vaishnavacharyas. So. Yeah. Anything else?
Are you talking about spiritual ego?
Well, the topic was humility.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you can connect it to the.
Yeah, it's nice. It's beautiful. Thank you.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say thank you to all the devotees who have sent a signed get well card while I was in hospital. Thank you.
Jai. We're welcome. We're happy Ishvara is back and in good health again. Well, I hope you could take something home with you today from this. And then, if that's all, then we can have longer kirtan today. Right? Srimad Bhagavad Gita says, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.